If you're being presented with a contract saying you don't get anything at the altar, that's a huge red flag. I think that goes without saying, that if you're standing there, in the front of everybody and you're presented a packet of papers and said to sign here and the, officiant's gonna act as the notary, red flag. You're sitting in the back room and you're putting on your dress and somebody comes in, says they're a notary and you need to sign this, red flag, red flag. Everybody's gonna react differently to a prenup. Being a divorce lawyer for 16 years here in Florida, I have had so many different types of reactions to prenups over the years. I've had people scream at me, and then I've also had people hug me. It runs the spectrum of what the reactions could be to the prenuptial agreement process. Depending on the reaction to the prenup, that can also show some red flags that could continue on during the marriage and if there is a possible divorce. If extreme anger is the reaction to the prenup, then that's a red flag. Is a horrible reaction to a prenup a huge red flag? If it's just wanting to get some more information about the process itself of the prenuptial agreement, because maybe you've never done it before, understandable, then maybe that's not a red flag for somebody just to want to get a little bit more understanding of the process. You have to weigh the differences between a really, really bad reaction to a prenup or just kind of normal concern and uncertainty and wanting to feel secure in the situation. So this goes without saying, but a really, really bad reaction to a prenup is not good. But this video is not just about somebody being presented a prenup and then that person reacting. This is also the red flags about the person that is initially asking for the prenup. One of the big red flags for the person that's asking for the prenup is if they're refusing to provide financial information that you would need in order to enter into that agreement. It's very important to understand what you're entering into. And in order to enter into a prenuptial agreement, you should understand the financial picture of the person that you're marrying. So in Florida, we exchange financial disclosure as part of the prenuptial process. We disclose bank statements, financial disclosure, information about real estate, information about cars, income information, investment accounts, brokerage accounts, retirement accounts, and especially if somebody owns a business, that's information that needs to be disclosed. So the person that's asking for the prenup, they need to provide financial disclosure, and if they don't, that's a red flag. Or the other red flag for the person asking for the prenup is if they're giving it to you at the altar, okay? If you're being presented with a contract saying you don't get anything at the altar, that's a huge red flag. I think that goes without saying, that if you're standing there, in the front of everybody and you're presented a packet of papers and said to sign here and the, officiant's gonna act as the notary, red flag. We generally tell people, and if you look at our website, you'll see on there that we ask for at least 6 months before the wedding date to be able to provide the agreement to either side. Now, it doesn't always happen 6 months, but sometimes we're able to start well before the wedding date, and sometimes it gets closer. But we don't want somebody walking down the aisle and for the first time seeing that prenuptial agreement. That is, and this goes without saying, a gigantically huge red flag. Hopefully you'd say, whoa, 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 whoa. The person that's asking for the prenup, if they're not being transparent about finances and disclosing information to you, that's a red flag. Not everybody wants to provide all the information, but in order to have a legally binding prenuptial agreement that you would want the court to hold up in a court of law later in the event of a divorce, you need to provide information. You need to provide financial disclosure. And there's some people that don't want to do that. So those are people that I would say, if they come to me, I'm not going to be able to do your prenup if you don't want to provide the financial disclosure to the other side. Now, is this a red flag? Somebody feels like they're going to get jilted in the deal. They feel like they don't understand it enough. It's confusing. Maybe they're presented with the prenuptial agreement. It came from an attorney. They've never dealt with attorneys before. And they just feel like they don't know what they're doing. That's not necessarily a red flag. That might just be normal human nature, that it can be scary. You got a lot of stuff going on with the wedding, and you're booking caterers, you're doing all kinds of seating charts, you're doing things. And now if you're putting also on your plate a prenuptial agreement, that can be a little scary. So to feel like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't want to mess something up, that can be just a normal human reaction to it. That is not necessarily a red flag, but where it may turn into a red flag after being presented with the idea of a prenuptial agreement or being presented with the prenuptial agreement, and then maybe they speak to an attorney and they start doing some research on it, and now they understand it a little bit more. And if they still understand it and they have absolutely no reason at all to not sign it, but just for the emotional, visceral reasoning and maybe sometimes illogical reasoning of not wanting to enter into it, then that could be a red flag. And now there are logical reasons to not enter into a prenup. From my perspective as a divorce lawyer in Florida, doing this as long as I have, I think most people would want to have a insurance policy in the event something happens, and to be able to say to the state of Florida, no, this is what we want to do. We don't want you, state of Florida, to tell us what we are going to do. We want to say what we want. If there's absolutely no reason for why, and again, you'll have to go with a gut decision. If you've gone through that process, maybe they spoke with an attorney, if they're still viscerally saying, there is no way I will sign this prenup, I will not walk down that altar with you if you try to make me sign this, and it's not going to happen. And I mean, again, this is going to have to be a gut decision for you if you're asking for it. And there are some people that say, you know what, the squeeze isn't worth the juice. Not sure if that analogy works, but basically it's not worth it in some situations. The idea of a prenup is to prevent further issues from coming up in the future. So from preventing those future possible disagreements and arguments over things, especially if one person is walking into the marriage with considerably more assets, income, whatever, premarital, inheritance, business interests, whatever it is. This sometimes, again, is an insurance policy to make sure that everything is on the table. And then you also, as a married couple, understand the financial picture of both sides. There are many, many, many people that get married and know absolutely nothing about the financial picture of the person that they are marrying. Throughout history, maybe it may have been considered more romantic not to know anything about the person and marry them within 14 hours after you've just met them. Normally, at least nowadays, people want to at least know the person that they're marrying and going to be spending the rest of their life with, knowing about their financial picture, no matter what that is. If you're a billionaire or you're a negative 10,000-aire, you probably want to make sure that you know who you're marrying. Having that out on the table before you get married, I mean, I don't know how that hurts. I don't know how that hurts. Because sometimes it hurts more when 2 years into the marriage, somebody goes, what? What? I mean, maybe it's a happy surprise in certain situations. You know, I thought you had 2 nickels to rub together, but you're sitting on like a cool 50 million in your investment accounts. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, most of the time people at least discuss, which can be scary. There's a lot of different things to think about. There's a lot of different things to plan for. Prenups are not the thing that most people say, you know what, oh, this is exactly what I want to be doing during my happy time. Again, it's an insurance policy. It's something there to help you out in the event there is a divorce. And then you have this sitting in your safe that you can pull out and say, this is what we agreed to when we still loved each other, rather than when you don't love each other if you're getting a divorce. So that's another point that I try to make sure that people understand very clearly, that to contract with somebody when you love them is a lot different than when you hate them. Unbridled, extreme anger. If that's the response, I mean, again, if it doesn't subside and at least some type of reasonable, logical argument doesn't take its place at some point, I don't know. I mean, my position is that's a little bit of a red flag for a response to a prenuptial agreement. These are things that you, yourself, you're gonna have to weigh. The complete resistance or refusal to enter into a prenuptial agreement sometimes end engagements. And it does sometimes make it to where people don't get married. And those are things that sometimes people don't hear about. Myself being a divorce lawyer and practicing in prenups, you know, sometimes you do see it because there are situations where there's too many red flags. And that's why I made this video. I made this video because the red flags are out there, and sometimes you need to see them, and you need to see them from both sides. This is not just the person being presented the prenup and saying, hey, sign this. Oh, you won't sign it? You know, it's also the person that's asking for it and how they're asking for it and what they're providing disclosure-wise about their finances. And also if it's, you know, 5 minutes before you're about to walk down the aisle. All of these different red flags that we've discussed during this video are not to discourage a prenup, because I have seen many prenups be extremely collaborative and can be very helpful. I have had cases that were saved by prenups because there was something in place that was able to deal with what would otherwise be an extremely complicated and complex divorce. Now it's following through with the contract that they already entered into. Prenups can be extremely beneficial, but you do need to watch out for the red flags. If you've enjoyed this video at all, now check out this video. This is about prenuptial agreements. This is from Matt's journey. It's also a little bit of a different type of video. It's kind of edutainment. It's a little bit of information about Matt asking for a prenup, not a good response to the prenup, and just a little bit more information about prenuptial agreements. So check this one out.